Hey there, Adam here. Today I wanted to talk about using checklists as a growth and efficiency and just overall business hack for small businesses. It's highly underutilized, and very few law firms, just so you know, sort of my background, I am a North Carolina attorney, a small two-lawyer law firm, and I will tell you that most law firms and most small businesses do not use checklists, and even if they do use them, they don't use them very well. So I wanted to talk today about why I now utilize a very detailed, somewhat complicated, but thorough checklist system, and it has made an enormous difference in the way that I am organized and our staff is organized, and just overall levels of accountability. So I first want to sort of jump into a little bit about the history of checklists, just briefly. So checklists really sort of started to come to the forefront in the aviation world, where there was a essentially a fatal crash back when airplanes were becoming more commercial and actually used routinely. The pilots forgot to do a routine step, and a plane crashed, killing the pilots. And then Boeing, which was the company at the time, decided, there was discussions about whether or not they needed to make things more automated or whether or not they needed to change the technology as a whole. But then they, realized that really all that needed to be done was very detailed pre-flight checklists that were done with check marks on every single item all the way across the board. And proper checklisting has basically reduced airline fatalities, at least from failures of the pilots to do the proper steps before takeoff. It's basically reduced those types of errors and crashes to basically nothing. So if it's good enough for the airline industry and it reduces failures to follow policies and procedures to basically zero, then it's good enough for basically any other type of business. So that's sort of the reason checklists are good. And checklists to a lot of people seem really silly because sometimes it's stuff they're like, well, yeah, of course I did that. It was necessary to do that to get to the next step. So why do I need to do this unnecessary step of checking off the box in each one of these policies, or each one of these cases or intakes, or whatever your industry may be? And the answer is because you may have remembered it in 99 out of 100 cases, but it's the one case you forget where you get yourself in trouble. And also, in today's more modern age, checklisting is a great way for everybody on the team to be able to tell the status of each individual case, matter, project, whatever it may be. So let me switch to my, it's called a case management program. So let me switch to that real quick. So this is our case management system. And I can only show you a little bit because I can't show you anything with any clients' names on it. But this is what we use. It's called Needles Neos. And it has all of our clients. It has all of our cases. We save documents, we save information and emails, etc. But the core backbone, and this is a huge reason why we use this program, is this checklist system. So this checklist system, and I'll just sort of scroll through to show you how many items there are. So quite a few. So this checklist will take us from, you'll see the very beginning, we decide to take a lawsuit. So these are contingency motor vehicle accident lawsuits. This takes us from the very first step where the lawyer decides that we want to take the case, meet with the client. And then as you go down the list, you get down to asking the client to leave a Google review after having a good result. So this takes us from start to finish. And it used to be back in the day, you would just have a piece of paper and you just put check boxes. But nowadays, we need to utilize technology in a more efficient manner. Technology exists, and you'll just do better if you use it correctly. So nowadays, these more sophisticated programs, you'll see that you can essentially reference previous. So if you see where it says REF, it stands for reference. You can essentially reference previous items on your checklists to appear and set deadlines. You'll see these days are the deadlines and how long you have to do it. And that will allow more sophisticated parent-child type relationships with checklist items that otherwise would have been somewhat difficult to capture on pen and paper. You could have done it, but it's a lot more manual entry and auxiliary checklists and perhaps sub-checklists that you would attach. Let's just say you decide you need to do meet with somebody, you may have to attach a sub checklist to make sure you get all the items you need for that meeting. In this context, it's already built in. You can click 2 buttons and it just pops up. So this is sort of the meat of a checklist system in the modern age, is this real easy ability to use parent-child items to be able to reference back where you're at, and you can actually run reports, which, again, I can't really show you because it has client names on it, but you can run reports to see which items are overdue, and you'll see that specific people on our team are assigned to each item, such as the legal assistant or a paralegal or the attorney, and you can see who's got what that needs to get done, if it's overdue, and this really gives you a very good look as to what bottlenecks you have in your business. Of course, the primary issue with doing this sort of thing is everybody has to do it. So you have to hold people accountable for these checklists. But if you do, you can keep a very close eye on where you're at, and there's just not as many questions from your team members because they know what needs to get done, at least for the major items that are the same in every one of your projects. Really, what I've come to find in talking with other small business owners and people who work in these small, what you call family businesses, is a very sort of relaxed, I wouldn't call it lax, but it's a relaxed culture where you might treat it more like, again, like a family would, and with less sort of structure, with less rigor in your processes, and just a general culture of less accountability and responsibility for what's going on, which you can still be very profitable just by making sure that you generally do things correctly, and that you're, and you're responsible, and that you hire people that know what they're doing. But there's a reason that these big companies became big. You say, oh, you got these big companies, and they create all the structure that's just totally unnecessary. And you're sort of looking at the correlation and causation there backwards. The reason a lot of these companies are successful is because they had high levels of accountability from the get-go, or they, at some point in time, became more structured, and then their businesses did a lot better after that. Because it's necessary to not miss items and not be thinking about what items need to be done. If you do it the same way every time, you shouldn't have to think about it. It just needs to get done. It doesn't need to be a thought process. It doesn't need to be a discussion. And that reduces the load on multiple people. And you'll come to find that when there's discussions about when things need to get done, you end up with multiple people having to go and step into the project, see where you're at, see what's going on, and then there's a discussion. And that uses a lot more time than you would think it could possibly use. The next time you sit down in front of your computer, look at how many emails you have. If you're in any sort of project-oriented type business, look at how many emails you have that are saying, where are we in this? What are we doing on this? What needs to be done next on this one? And just say, well, if I could get rid of 80% of these emails, how much time am I saving every day, every week? I guarantee it's significant. So stepping into a checklist type system for projects that have repeatable steps is a no-brainer. And now with software the way it is, it's much easier just to structure it out, and you're not holding a clipboard to sort of figure out where you are. Even if you don't do a whole, complicated report system, just having the structure there for staff, especially if you ever have to hire anybody new that doesn't know what your system is, having a checklist that says we're going to do it this way, then this way, then this way, is going to save you a ton of time and effort and lead to a lot less questions and a lot less pain. I hope you found this helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. If you want to hear more videos on these kind of topics, let me know that as well. Thanks.